Same old trouble, villains always knocking at the door. Pretty pictures on the page, but nothing ever stays the same.
Thank you, Vandillo, and welcome once again to Graphically Novel. My name is Josh Wasta, aka Fallout Fury, and with me is the bear in Polar Bear, our own Russian.
Ooh, I get to be the Russian.
It's Bear. Yeah, you're Kevin Nash. You're big sexy.
Ooh, I get to be big sexy. And you know, I had a really great intro for Jenn, and somewhere between last night when I was drinking and watching all this shit, and now I forgot it. But with us, as usual, the lovely and talented Baroness, Ms. Jennifer Howland.
Thank you. And it's
Painkiller Jane.
Painkiller Jane.
Ooh, I like it. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce our guest. We have another returning guest, friend of the show, sibling of one of our hosts,
Woohoo!
Luke Wieser. Thank you for joining us.
See, you should have went with, let me tell you something, Red.
W-E-E-Z.
What's going on, y'all?
Good to have you back, bro.
Yep.
Good to be here.
You may recognize... Yeah, we do. Okay, so Howard the Duck was the last one, but before that, we had you on. That was an Alan Moore episode we had you on.
Two guns.
Yeah.
Two guns.
Well, Two Guns we did, but Alan Moore was...
Alan
And then
Moore was
From Hell.
From Hell.
Yeah. So...
From Hell was your first one, wasn't it?
That it was.
Yeah, and so in the spirit of kind of a more, Garth Ennis is his own person that we seem to run into a lot on this show.
We have. We've hit him with Preacher, which was first season, which was you and me. We had Troy on for The Boys.
Yep.
Hellblazer.
Yep.
Jason, was that Ennis with Jason and Judge Dredd?
No,
we didn't do the
Ennis
Ennis one.
No,
He's written Ennis, but
he has,
he's written Dredd.
but we did not do an Ennis Dredd. No, but yeah, like Garth Ennis is definitely one of those. Like Warren Ellis is another one that we run into a lot. Our famous More episodes. So
Ennis
we will be doing.
Ennis has written a lot.
Yeah, we will be doing his run of Punisher. Welcome back, Frank. Which man, Ennis. Whoo, Ennis. If anyone is familiar with The Boys, especially right now, season 3 had just dropped, or is dropping currently.
Like little turds every Friday.
He is very good at what he does, and what he does is make you uncomfortable with his violence. So we will also be anything Punisher is kind of on the table. The hosts and the guest have done various amounts of Punisher. We have I believe Luke, have you seen the second season of the Netflix Daredevil?
I've watched yes, I watched that, and I actually have seen all the Punisher on Netflix as well.
Okay, yep. So that's on the table.
Well, they're not on Netflix anymore. They're on Disney Plus.
They're on Disney Plus.
Me. Yes, I know. I understand that Disney took it away, but I managed to watch all of them before they made their migration.
The Thomas Jane Punisher movie's on the table. Warzone is on the table.
Dolph Lundgren is on the table.
Dolph Lundgren's on the table.
I did not get the chance to rewatch that.
Did Dolph wear the big skull on his chest, or
yes,
was it?
He sure did. Yeah, this is back in.
He was also nude a lot.
He was
in that movie. I remember.
And the on YouTube, if you search, it's man, I had it written down.
Oh, the laundromat episode.
Yes,
the Thomas Jane laundromat episode.
Yes, I believe it's called Dirty Laundry. Which Thomas Jane and the director that did the first Punisher movie did after Warzone came out to try and show the world that they should have another crack at Punisher. And it is pretty awesome.
It wasn't much. It was like, 12 minutes or something like that?
Yeah, I'm bringing it up right now. 10 minutes, 15 seconds. And it's called The Punisher Dirty Laundry. It's from something called the Bootleg Universe, where a bunch of fan film or directors just wanted to do their own short projects. It's really good, actually. A random Ron Perlman shows up in it.
I don't remember him being in that. Now I gotta go rewatch it.
He's
I might have to rewatch it too. I thought I had seen it before because that's been out for a while, hasn't it?
Oh yeah. So
It came out in like 09 or something like that, because I think Warzone was like 08.
Dirty Laundry 9 years ago. So
Was it only that long ago?
yeah, so 2013.
It was 5 years, because Warzone was 08, wasn't it?
I have no idea.
2008.
Yeah.
You go and find the D. But let's start with Welcome Back, Frank. This is not the first time that I've read this. This is known as one of the best Punisher stories. Ennis basically was hired on to try and bring back some respect to Frank, and
Which was Vertigo's flagship character, wasn't it?
not Vertigo.
Not Vertigo.
No, this is Marvel. Punisher's Marvel.
Oh, that's right. Vertigo's DC.
Yeah, you're thinking of Constant.
Yes, that's what
Yeah.
I was thinking of. My bad.
Nope, no problem.
I mean, Ennis has written
Yes, he's written for everyone
Like,
and everything.
Spider-Man, Ghost Rider, Hulk, Thor, like everything.
So this book, 2008, which I'm fairly sure that Warzone was not 2008 then, because the Thomas Jane Punisher is this. This is the story that the Thomas Jane
Well, but this
Punisher-
also, I'm sure, was part of the inspiration for the second season of Daredevil, because there's
Absolutely.
definitely scenes straight out of this comic book that ended up in the beginning of the second, first 3 or 4 episodes of the second season of Daredevil.
Yeah. Oh no, that's weird. You're right. Punisher Warzone was 2008. The Punisher
I was drunk, but I was doing my homework.
The
Mhm.
Punisher was 2004.
Yeah.
So how was Welcome Back Frank? Oh,
Welcome-
okay. Sorry.
Welcome
it's a
Back, Frank was
collection.
2000.
Yeah, no, this is a collection. I just looked at the wrong thing of when it was published, not when the issues originally dropped. But yeah, like I said, known as one of the Punisher stories. This happens around the same time, and I don't know if it was before or after. I'm going to guess it was shortly before Punisher War Journal, which was a whole title that was Frank just going and being Frank, and it was gritty and part of the Max label, which we have done on this show before when we talk about things like Jessica Jones. So
Okay.
it was the adult content line of Marvel.
But when has Frank not been Frank? Honestly.
Well, there are.
Now, to be fair, this is the only Punisher that I've actually read compared to seen various series and whatnot. So there may be other series in which he isn't just the killing machine and no humanity whatsoever.
Right. There were a lot of attempts to soften him, especially in the 90s. Not like he never got completely soft, but he does runs in a lot of other he shows up in other comics that maybe are not, he probably shouldn't show up in. The example that comes to my mind right away is Runaways, which there's this whole thing where these kids run into the Punisher, and the little girl who's a mutant with super strength punches him, and there's one of those balloons or the text boxes up in the top that just goes Punisher War Journal. Ow.
That wasn't in the one that we did for
It was not in the one
Runaways.
that we did. No, that
would have been fun to read.
That Runaways was a Joss Whedon run. But a lot of things like that. The Punisher shows up as a joke in a lot of things. And actually, in a lot of Spider-Man, early he was not as gritty early when he first showed up in Spider-Man. I mean, he still was killing people, and that was the introduction of the character. And then they went and kind of ran with it and filled in a lot of his backstory and allowed him to be. But I guess it's more like PG. He was PG for a long time. This and the Max label are when he's allowed to just kind of show when they go balls to the wall. This is a Marvel Preacher comic, is what this is, because there is a lot of gore, a lot of polar bears taking limbs off of a woman.
Well, but it's not. I mean, the gore happens off camera.
It does.
In fact, even Spacker Dave's face, you don't see.
Spacker Dave!
You don't see anything.
No, they never show
Nothing.
you
Right.
his face after all of his
Yeah.
piercings have been
Ripped out.
removed. Forcibly removed, let's
Yeah.
say. But I did also notice that after, because I was getting so annoyed with any time anybody would just be like, "Hey Dave, Spacker Dave, Spacker," he does his instant response, Spacker Dave, and I was just like, "Oh, for the love of God!" And then after that scene, he never did it again.
Right, and again, that's
No, he did it one more time.
Right.
At the very end, I forgot. Yeah.
But that's intentional. That's Ennis doing that to
show evolution of the character. Yeah.
Right.
You know, you had mentioned before about Punisher just kind of showing up in other people's in other comic series and stuff like that. Wasn't that more, because I thought I did a little side reading too, not like other series and whatnot, but just kind of little like informational stuff. Wasn't that more of a like, I hate to use the words alignment check, but like maybe a morality check on the heroes, whoever's comic it was based off of? It's like, all right, how close to the Punisher are you? Whoa, I'm way too close. I gotta check myself.
Right.
You know, kind of like that's kind of like maybe like Daredevil, I think in the series was kind of like that for this. It's just like, oh, what would Daredevil think? Oh, Daredevil's gonna get his ass handed to him, and then he's gonna have a crisis. Then he's gonna go to church, because that's what he's gonna do.
Because that's what Daredevil does whenever he just starts getting in his own head as he goes to church.
He also wrote Swamp Thing for a while, going back to more.
Well, I mean, maybe if they would have based it off of his, this TV series off of his writing, it would have been a better TV series.
So, Luke, first time reading Punisher comics, what did you think?
I mean, it was pretty on par with the film for the most part, or the Thomas Jane film. What, Thomas Jane, right?
Yeah.
It was pretty on par, and honestly, I thought it was you know, it was a very good, like, they did a really good job basing that movie off of that series. I think it's the serialized form of like the character in like the 80s or 90s like action movies, but done in a comic system, because it is, you know, they jumped the shark a lot, but of course that's comics for you. That's kind of how it was. I mean, obviously with some of the injuries and wounds sustained by some of the characters in the series, they obviously wouldn't be around and alive and that coherent. However,
back to woman getting attacked, Punisher uses polar bear as his weapon of choice.
Right. Yes. Or the one that gets, you know, the one that falls in with the anaconda cage and stuff like that, or the, you know, enclosure and whatnot. I mean, that's like, but that's just like, how gruesome are these deaths going to be? Because that's what Punisher is. You wouldn't see that stuff in like a Spider-Man or, you know, I guess, I don't know, maybe an X-Men, like depending on how dark that they decide to go. But like this is kind of like their hand of like, what is the real nitty gritty like guy that is too angry to die, short of the Doom guy? You know, how would he exist in the MCU or even just, you know, the Marvel universe? Like, well, it's Punisher, and this is what it is. I mean, you can be an actual superhero, or you can be Punisher. So I think he's used as the morality check. Like, how close to Punisher are we? Pretty damn close. Maybe we should revise our strategy.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I mean, I appreciated in the comic how creative Punisher was.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I really liked that, because on the surface, Punisher is, you know, a weapons guy. You know, like he has all of these tactical weapons and, you know, military training. But I love when he's just like,
I will use anything.
I have, you know, what do I have that I can use? Oh, shoot. I was going to get that guy's gun, but I can't because
I stabbed a guy with a brick.
Yeah.
Do you know how hard
it is to stab someone with a brick?
Sorry, I had to get my Hobbs and Shaw quote in there.
Yeah. But yeah, it's and Luke, I do find it interesting that you mentioned, especially the zoo scene, where he uses different, like, it's almost wacky. Like, it almost goes too far. He's almost also Frank Castle pet.
I think you're wrong with the almost. It is wacky. It is wacky as hell. But when you realize, oh wait, it's Punisher. It's not like there's a lot of depth or meaning in this. Or is there? I
was actually just kind of amused that the most gore that you saw in the whole comic, because I was expecting a lot more gore, honestly.
Yeah.
Having not read this before.
You get that in the Max series.
The most gore that you see is what's left of the dude after he pulls him out of the piranha tank.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
So, Bear, first time reading a Punisher comic?
First time reading a Punisher comic.
And?
It was good. I mean, it's Ennis, so, like, it's kind of hard to be bad.
I believe Ennis is probably going up your list of comic book writers you didn't know before this podcast.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That
I mean, I've definitely got to go find, his Hulk stuff for sure.
yeah.
And
Wait,
especially
Ennis did
after-
some Hulk?
Yeah, Ennis did some Hulk.
Hold on a second. You guys talk amongst yourselves. I'm gonna
I
check this out.
gotta do some research.
Jen, how about you?
I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
And, it's after the slog that was Peacemaker.
Oh, it was refreshing.
It was refreshing. It was like, oh, this is how a graphic novel is supposed to read, where there isn't a chapter of text on a page.
Because we did, 5 issues for Peacemaker?
Four.
It was only 4?
It was
Yeah.
only
And this
4.
was 12, and
Yeah.
I think I read it twice as fast or 3 times as fast.
Oh, easy.
Like I
Yeah.
read 6 issues last night, in probably about 3 hours, and I read the other 6 issues this morning over about the same amount of time.
Yeah,
I
it was
read-
like 2 nights
yeah.
before bed, kind of like, oh, hey, this goes really quick.
I read 9 issues in an hour.
I mean, I don't read fast, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Plus,
Yeah.
I was also trying to take notes on, Thomas Jane and Warzone
Yeah.
and
Well, and I have to say that the issues that we chose to read do match the Thomas Jane Punisher movie very closely.
Mm-hmm.
But I also can see, especially in issue 12, where they kind of got the jumping off point for the TV series, where he's like, don't emulate me.
Yeah.
I am not a hero, and what you're doing is wrong because you're not taking into consideration XYZ.
exactly.
Yeah, and let's jump into that.
Let's
Because
start
we
talking
all
about
knew that this was going to come up.
the
But
Holy and Elite and Mr. Payback, which if
Mr.
you read
Payback, yeah.
if you read the inside dust jacket, they call him Mr. Paycheck, and I was just like, one of these I'm
Somebody's
interested
wrong.
in hearing about. I was like, so I think the back of the book called it Mr. Payback, and the inside of the dust jacket called him like Mr. Paycheck or something like that. And I was just like, I am interested to see which character this actually is. One of these I am very interested in. The other one I am not so much.
but mostly what I was getting at was the idea of, for 22 years now, because this was 2000. So for at least 22, there have been elements of like the Punisher telling people, do not emulate me. And then in the last 20 years, we've seen things like police vehicles that have the Punisher logo
Yes.
on them.
Right? With the one skull tooth that's blue and
Yep.
bullshit.
Yes. And, we see Punisher in comics say like, no. See, I am what happens when you fail. If you're putting my symbol on your fucking squad car,
It means you've already failed.
you're just calling yourself a failure.
You're planning on failing.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're intentionally not doing what you're doing.
In which
Right.
case, they're following the wrong character. They should be following Judge Dredd and not
Yes.
Punisher.
It's true.
No, because they're killing people.
Right.
Didn't,
No, but they should be following
Oh, they
Daredevil.
should be following
Yes.
Daredevil, yes.
There was a particular comic that scene was from, but didn't he specify like you should be following Captain America?
Yes.
He should be
That
the
was
one that you
not
should be
in this
looking.
comic.
that was not in this comic, but
Not
it
in this
is-
one, but there was a
yes.
different one, more recent.
Yes, and actually also in Civil War, there's a whole part about that you find out that Frank does what he does because he emulates Captain America, and he says that to Captain America's face, and Cap gets pissed.
We should read that.
Well, Civil War, we actually did it for Rec Conversations, so you're free to listen to that episode if you like. But it's basically like all the heroes are going underground because they're with Cap's team.
Sure.
That when it gets registration, they find the Punisher, and they're like, okay, well, I guess Frank's gonna come with us. And Frank sees that like 2 D-level villains are with them, and he immediately just shoots them both in the face.
That's awesome.
And like all the heroes like tackle him down, and Captain America's like, "What is wrong with you?" And he's like, "They were villains. They killed people." Like, and then that's when you find out he's like, "I went to war. I did all of these things because I believed in Steve Rogers, because I believed in being a soldier like you." And Cap is like loses it. He's like, "You are nothing like me." And then, different ends of the soldier spectrum, but I mean,
I mean, there's a difference between what Cap did when Cap was fighting Nazis versus what Cap's doing now.
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, how far do you shift drug dealers and murderers just being Nazis?
Well, because first off, Nazis aren't American.
Well, it's a war versus street crime.
Yeah.
You were about to say Nazis aren't American,
I was
weren't
about
you?
to say, what I was going to say is Nazis aren't American citizens. Those Nazis weren't American citizens.
There you go. Yeah.
That's where I tripped up.
Because fucking 2022, man.
I mean, it's 2022, and technically Nazis shouldn't be American.
Technically, Nazis should not exist.
Right.
Oh, yeah, no. Like, that shit doesn't happen in Germany.
Yeah.
So, now that we've gone into the unfortunate symbolism of Punisher, and actually to the point that Marvel has announced this year that they're going to change his logo. They're going to change the Punisher's logo. They're going to retire the old skull one because it's been
Misappropriated.
co-opted. Yeah.
Yep. It sucks that they have to do that.
I agree. Well, it's like the guy that originally drew Pepe the Frog killed him in his comics because Pepe the Frog was just originally a nothing comic book character, like a cute little comic book.
It was like a cartoon character, comic book character.
And then the artist like kind of stopped doing the comic for a while, and the white supremacist just took over Pepe, and then he found out about it and was like, nope.
We're gonna write another run and he's gonna die.
Yep. And that's exactly what he did.
Okay, well.
So let's move on to, let's do it in chronological order, shall we?
Chronological order?
Yeah, so it'd be Dolph Lundgren first.
It's been so long since I've seen it. I don't remember
me
much.
too. You had brought it up. If you can find this gem, it goes in the same kind of viewing pile as the David Hasselhoff Nick Fury movie.
I remember it having a distinctly like samurai bent to it, like Punisher was some sort of like samurai wannabe.
Yeah, like the whole idea of like the Ronin thing was big around that time. Yeah. So we'll move from that one to the Thomas Jane Punisher, which was the first time that we saw the Punisher on the screen in a long time. And I remember when this came out, like it was 2004, so it was superhero movies were just started. Like if you had a good property or a property that people knew, they were just cranking those fucking movies out. Before they, Marvel got their shit together and started getting organized. It was just like random, throw it at the wall and see what sticks. And I liked this movie.
Well,
I thought it was
the Eric Bana Hulk, I think had come out just the year before.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah,
and it was
so
written. It was written by with the same guy. So here I am scrolling through Wikipedia while you guys are talking. The 04 Punisher was directed and written by Jonathan Hensley, who also wrote. Let's double check here. I want to say Jumanji.
Okay.
Wrote Jumanji, Die Hard with a Vengeance, Young Indiana Jones Chronicles for you if you want to dip back in the 80s. Also wrote Armageddon.
I mean, fair, because it does have that kind of late 80s, early 90s action movie feel to it, while being elevated in its plot. So it took like the important parts, the dramatic parts of what we read for the comic, and added it to what normally would be an 80s, 90s action movie.
And he co-wrote this with
an origin story.
He co-wrote this with Michael France, who also is known for Cliffhanger, GoldenEye, the 2003 Hulk, and then the 2005 after Punisher was the 2005 Fantastic Four.
Bad news, everyone. We will never be doing a Fantastic Four.
Well, unless you want to hear me rant about how they screw up Doom
Stretch
every
Armstrong!
time.
And as a complete aside, I was looking on the D to look up all the Punisher movies. And scrolling down, it's like the TV series, the Thomas Jane Punisher, the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, Warzone, the video game, the short Dirty Laundry, and then something completely, the Devil Punisher, completely not within this realm that we're talking about. And then the very last entry, when you look up Punisher on IMDb, is Harvey Weinstein.
Really?
That's just the Punished.
I know. I was like, interesting.
Well, fun little Easter eggs on
The
on
less
the D.
said about that, the better.
Yep, burn in hell, Harv.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, Thomas Jane Punisher, one of the things that, after having read this comic, the main antagonist in the comic is basically the matriarch of a mob. This was changed in the movie for John Travolta.
Listen, still I think one of John Travolta's like better roles.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's one of his better roles, but I enjoyed him movie.
Like, he doesn't play villains very often.
It's true. And when he does, I mean, he has this ridiculous, over-the-top, you know, like my favorite...
Comic book villain.
Yeah, my favorite is him being the villain in fucking Face Off.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Ooh, you good looking.
Oh my god, I love that movie. It's so bad.
Because
It's so bad.
Because
And
John
I love
Travolta pretending to be Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
And it's fantastic.
And Nicolas Cage pretending to be John Travolta. How, like, it's just a dream team.
But you get little
No
bits.
more drugs for that man.
You get little bits of that in there. You know, when John Travolta has a role, I think we've talked about this especially with Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
When some of these actors get a role that they're just enjoying, they're like, oh, I can ham it up as much as I want. Well then, spiral cut it is.
Are you going to tell Travolta he can't do it the way he wants to do it?
Well, he'll say something about a volcano and an alien and how I have too many alien negative things in my blood, or whatever the fuck Scientologists
Thetans?
believe. Yes.
Ghost aliens, yeah.
Yes.
I think, so I had a question about that. So, not about the Thalians, but so, like, you know, from Welcome Back, Frank, he was definitely like, I will get in there and kill and not have any interaction with it whatsoever. Like, just there's barely any growth, depth, whatever, you know, growth or depth or anything like that. When it comes to the villains in the movie, though, like they seemed like they gave, they took out a lot of the Doom guy from the Punisher in the Thomas Jane film, and he more of like precision to revenge rather
They did
than
make
like,
him a lot more cerebral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was very much I'm going to take everything from you before I kill you movie. And I mean, I'm there for it. I love those types of movies when they're done well. And this was done extremely well. The other thing is the comic book Punisher, you know, does not have a lot of mercy or doesn't really draw that line. It reminds me of the Boondock Saints line of we warn you lesser forms of filth not to crawl into our into our domain.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of done. It's really brought forth in the popsicle scene, which anybody that's ever seen this movie knows what you're talking about when you just say the popsicle scene.
Yes.
You are not a nice person.
It was brilliant, though. Absolutely brilliant.
It is a brilliant scene, but it also fundamentally changes and shows that this is not comic book Frank.
Well,
Because comic book Frank will fucking torture you.
You guys have read other Punisher comics? Does he come close to any of that in some of the other series or not?
The ones that I have read and seen him in, no. He is either completely like grimdark or used as a punchline for other characters' comics.
Sure.
I've never seen him be the forgiving Frank or the merciful Frank. There is, I should warn you, an entire storyline that I have not read in which Frank is dead and is sent back by God to be the angel of punishment.
So I feel
All right,
like that's
what libertarian bullshit.
But I feel like
writer
that's
did
referred
that.
to in this run that we read, because he said, I was in heaven once.
Yeah.
I was in heaven once, and I saw my wife and kids happy and safe there.
I just
And
assumed,
then I was returned.
I just assumed that he meant like
Metaphorically.
Yeah.
metaphorically, like he had gotten back from Vietnam and then his kid, his wife and kid died, and then he went back into this shit.
He said that he saw them bleed out. Like, I saw the people I love bleed. I was there when they bled out.
Yeah, which is, I just took all that for,
For anybody curious, this is 1997 and 1998. It's an event comic. Yeah, he is. I'm sorry, not the Angel of Revenge. He's literally the Angel of Death.
Aoife did it better.
Yeah. There's a whole part where Gabriel resurrected the Punisher and gave him new powers. So Punisher was supernatural for a while.
Which one? Well, the Thomas Jane one was also had superpowers too. He could heal with a bottle of wild turkey.
Well, I feel like the Thomas Jane movie, there were a lot of things, even though it really matched closely this run that we read, I feel like they did things to make him more likable and to be more heroic, to be the hero rather than the anti-hero of the story.
Part of that was also the fact that they were trying to squeeze in an origin story into that too.
Yeah.
And humanize him a little bit.
Right.
Okay, so it's a 4-issue comic book limited series. It's also called Punisher Purgatory. It was published from 1998 to 1999, written by Christopher Golden and Thomas E. Snegowski.
That's Polish.
Yeah. After Frank had killed himself in an alleyway, shot himself in the head, and committed suicide.
I feel like he'd done it somewhere other than an alleyway.
The alley where he did it becomes a shrine for all the downtrodden victims of crime, and so he is resurrected by the angel Gabriel to be a guardian angel for all these downtrodden people.
I feel like
so they turned him into Spawn.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like,
absolutely.
I was going to say Constantine and Spawn, and we're like trying to do,
Yeah, Spawn for God, pretty much.
Spawn for God.
Spawn.
God Spawn.
God Spawn.
That reminds me. I have read Punisher in another series. I read there is a What If comic of what if the Punisher got the Venom symbiote.
Yes, I have read that one now that you mention it.
And it was the most, like, I read through that and I'm just like, oh no, this better not happen at all. This is bad news because they are so good for each other.
Ennis also wrote a series in 95 called Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe.
Because who else?
I mean, I can see that happening. I am very interested in because Venom is basically adding a meta onto any other character you can add it onto. I'm very interested in reading all the Venom stuff where Venom ends up other places, like Punisher, Hulk. I know at one point in time Hulk gets the Venom symbiote, and I'm like, I kind of got to see what the hell happens with that, because it just seems like they should have called that Carnage, because that's what that would have been.
Yes.
Only if we have an issue or two where Howard the Duck gets the Venom symbiote, then I'm in.
Yes.
While he's got the Silver Surfer power.
That's true. The power cosmic.
The power cosmic and the Venom symbiote.
Oh, Jesus.
Yikes.
There's your what if moment.
Yeah.
If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen.
Oh my God. It's so bad. Let's talk about good things.
Okay,
So not Warzone. Okay, got it.
well, Warzone is next.
Oh, Warzone.
Now, I don't remember a lot of it. I do remember liking it.
I remember. After watching it, I know why you liked it.
Okay.
Because it reminded me very much of, like, Schumacher Batman.
Yes. They were not taking Frank seriously.
It was over the top.
Yeah.
Like, he was doing wacky, like, he jumped up in the air and, like slipped his, like, in his middle of his somersault, stuck his feet into the chandelier, and then just spun in circles, shooting everybody in the room.
Wait,
and that was that happened in the first 5 minutes.
Who was playing Punisher in that one again? What's his name?
Ray
He used to be in Rome.
Stevens.
Yeah, he was in Rome. He's been
Ray
in a lot
Stevens.
of stuff. Wasn't he the dude that played
Ray Stevenson.
wasn't that he also
There we
the dude
go.
that did
Okay.
Natasha's dad in Black Widow?
No, that is
no.
a different actor.
Okay, hang on. I'm looking at Ray Stevenson's filmography. It's not a lot.
He was in Ragnarok.
He was in Vikings. He was in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, he's Volstagg in all the Thor movies.
Yeah, he was in all the Thor movies. He
He was
was
Porthos in the really bad Three Musketeers movie.
He was
like
in
an action.
the
The only good
Disney-
Three
the other-
Musketeers movie is the Disney one with Charlie Sheen.
and Kiefer Sutherland.
Totally
Yes.
agree. Circle gets the square.
Oh, that brings up the story.
He was in a Transporter movie.
He was in the
which is on our list for
What
bad
is it?
action movies that we need to.
HBO.
He's
Was it
in
HBO?
G.I. Joe Retaliation.
Oh god.
They're so bad, I love them.
The dad from Black Widow. You're thinking of David Harbour,
Okay.
which
Oh,
was
yeah.
the second Hellboy.
Oh, that's not the movie I thought it was. Never mind.
But yeah,
He was
so
real good in the Rome series.
Yeah.
but the whole thing about the 2008 the Warzone is in 2008 when it came out. It had the highest kill count of any movie up to that point.
And so many, like, I started watching it and I'm like, did somebody just recycle the cast of Desperado? Because that's what this looks like.
Yeah.
We didn't have Danny Trejo, but we had, what's his name, that played Antonio Banderas' brother, who was Bucho, was the guy that played Jigsaw.
Oh,
I have not seen Desperado for a very long
I
time.
just watched it the other day. I also noticed that I think, and I haven't been able to do the research, but it stuck in my head when I was watching Thomas Jane, that the guy that plays Harry Heck, I think, was one of the other two mariachis that Antonio Banderas calls in. I think he was the guy with the machine gun guitar cases.
God,
that
that
would make
movie is
sense.
so good. Love that trilogy.
I mean,
so when you're done with comics, you're just going to start transitioning into action movies, right? Was that the next?
mean,
thing?
That is my
Because
life.
That is
love
that is a
action movies.
possibility. We
I
have
would
discussed-
totally, jump in with you guys if that's what we're doing.
On the table is like going through all of the James Bond movies we've discussed. I would like to do the Fast and Furious movies
Oh
and breaking
no!
them down.
Why? Because we're family.
because we're family.
Because they're fucking ridiculous, but in the best goddamn way.
Yeah.
Like, Bear loves Sharknado for the same reason that I love the Fast and Furious movies.
They're just ridiculous.
Yeah. Especially when you get to the point of, like, Jason Statham having a fight in a plane that's crashing with a baby on board, and he needs to make sure to protect the baby while having a full-on gunfight.
Sounds like
In a plane.
sounds like watching Shoot 'em Up.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, I gotta protect the baby in the middle of a firefight. Oh, we're
Right.
also gonna have sex in the middle of a firefight.
I was about to
Yes.
say that was that movie, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm gonna kill somebody with a carrot twice. I guess it's just as bad as stabbing somebody with a brick.
So
Yeah.
so obviously Warzone made such an impact on it that we're barely going to talk about it.
I've never seen it.
I remember liking it, but yes, I didn't go back and
I thought I had seen it, and I was looking at the clips on IMDb, and I'm like, nope, never seen it. Guess what? Not gonna.
I watched it last night, and I say I watched it. I got probably about halfway through, and I was like, the comic's way more interesting. And I think it's because they got to the point where like the Peacemaker comic did, where they were talking more than they were showing me. This is a movie. You should be showing me all this stuff. You shouldn't just be talking about it.
Yeah.
And it was just.
This is not My Dinner with Andre.
Yeah.
This is also not a Kevin Smith movie. Like,
Right.
if you're gonna have dialogue, it should be good dialogue.
Was it kind of like Road to Perdition
No,
in that sense?
no, because again, if you're gonna have dialogue, it should be good dialogue, and Warzone did not have good dialogue.
So to run back really quick to Harry Heck, he was played by Mark Colley, who does random things. Was not one of the mariachi guys.
No, it wasn't. Cause
No.
they,
But
like,
he is
it looked
actually.
like a younger version of him. Like, it was so close.
He's an accomplished musician, actually, in and of his own right. He's like he's most of the stuff on his IMDb are his own music videos.
Oh, okay.
He did 12 episodes on Nashville, so yeah, he's a country music artist.
He's no Christine Owens.
Should
I mean,
me.
it's like, as far as my notes on Warzone goes, like, so Lexi Alexander was the director, and she's a big feminist supporter, big ACLU supporter, and it's really kind of weird because like I didn't get that out of the movie. I mean, she does a fairly decent job of making cops look like assholes, but like it could have been better, I thought.
Was that maybe production company constraints?
Yeah, they
Could
might have
be.
been
Probably.
editing afterwards.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say sometimes directors don't get the final. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why you have director's cuts of movies.
It's true. And
It was also done in 2004. Is that right?
8
Eight.
2008.
released in 8, but yeah.
Yeah. So there you
After
go.
they decided not to go with Thomas Jane for the sequel. Well, actually, Thomas Jane looked to the script.
But and I've got another note in there. It's
Oh,
like
that's
the
right.
cast for
Thomas
Warzone was like, it was really good. So like it was just really a case of like the script fucked this up.
Well, and after that, then came Dirty Laundry, which, like we said, is a 10-minute,
Brilliant.
amazing 10-minute film where it's back to Thomas Jane, but you aren't even really sure at the beginning who he is. There's no reveal that he's the Punisher. It's, oh God, it's just so good. Ron Perlman is a disabled vet that runs a liquor store across the street from the laundromat.
Yeah.
It is, Frank, as you see him in Punisher, but with an R rating. So the entire reason that he and the director, whose name escapes me, Thomas Jane and the director made it, was because when they made this Punisher movie, they were given basically pretty strict orders to keep it PG. Everything changed with Daredevil and Logan because they were the first superhero movies released with an R rating that made tons of money.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't think they could do it because they thought superheroes were for kids.
Right. And so that's when Thomas Jane and this director went, give us 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And we'll show you what an R-rated Punisher movie could be.
Yeah, the director is Phil Genoa.
Okay. And if I'm remembering right, he does a lot of action movies.
Yeah, looked like it.
But yeah, I can't say that much about it because it spoils it because it's only 10 minutes long.
Yeah, you can't really talk about it.
And all you need to say about it is go watch it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
10 minutes of your life well spent.
I'm reading through the plot synopsis, and then I got to the point where it goes across the street to get a bottle of Yoo-Hoo. I'm like, yep, I remember this now.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's 10 minutes. It's short. It's so well done.
Yep.
I mean, when you think about a short film and how much you need to pack into that amount of time to tell your story, it does not, not that it drags on, but it's incredible to me that this short is only 10 minutes long.
Yeah, after you watch it, you feel like you watched a half-hour episode of something.
Right.
Well, and it was meant to be a pseudo sequel to
it's like a teaser sequel. It's like, hey, it's trying to sell
because
another sequel to production companies.
Right, because it's Frank trying to walk away from being the Punisher and what happened and just what happens in the world around him, and it's brilliant. I have read, it's taken me more than 10 minutes to read a comic book that didn't have everything condensed. This could be a half of an issue of a comic book. It would not be because they'd stretch it out into 4 issues and make it a mini series.
Yeah, they'd have to flash over to something else that's going on and then come back and then...
Right. But yeah, go watch it. Just go watch it. I want to go back to, because you had mentioned Harry Heck and I totally forgotten about it. That is my favorite goddamn scene in that movie.
Right.
As somebody
the reason why that song is on the DVD intro, when you're sitting there and staring at your options.
As somebody who has been for the last 30 years of my life somebody that's played role-playing games, and the best stories are always the ones that have the right amount of ambiance, the right amount of... This was an example of the ST bringing in this really fucking cool character with an awesome intro, and then the players just fucking steamroll.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
No, but I mean, that character stuck in my head so much. He's Johnny Cash as a villain. He's Johnny Cash as a hitman. And I'm like, and then we read this and I was like, holy shit, he's actually in the comic.
Right? He lasted a grand total of 4 panels.
Yeah, he lasted actually even less time than he did in the movie.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
He got a whole song out.
I was a little disappointed, but I was like, you know what? But if they would have drew it out in the comic, it wouldn't have been the same. Because I can see how they took it and got some inspiration from it, but then just do a full port over, which was kind of nice. Right.
Well, and that's the thing is I had read this comic before I watched the movie for the first time, and when Harry Heck shows up, I'm like, I don't know if I remember that guy. And when he dies right away, I'm like, okay, first of all, now I remember that guy from the comic, and second, that's fucking funny because that is the ultimate kind of head nod. Some directors or some screenwriters would take that character and make them like this entire underplot, kind of what they did for the Russian.
Yeah.
You know, same thing. It's like the Russian shows up and you're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a thing. Big fight scene, Russians.
Yeah.
Same thing in the comic. I mean, like it was.
Well, that was the better part of an issue.
Right,
the
that's
comic,
true.
But
it was all that fight scene.
like they had dropped everything. Like just like you're at the point in the comic where the head of the family is just like, listen, this is kind of almost my last resort. Like, get the Russian.
Yeah. Well, also that's a long fucking fight scene too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think they did a really good job with it. Like,
considering that Kevin Nash at that point in his life, 2004, I mean, he was doing okay. He was starting to break down.
he was. I didn't recognize him at first. Like, I didn't recognize him without the beard. When he was
Movie
in it, like,
magic.
when I saw him in that movie and he's clean shaven, I'm like,
No, that's big sexy right there.
ah,
Clean
did-
shaven.
didn't recognize him. Like, no
Diesel,
beard. I was-
Diesel is the one with the beard.
Yeah.
Big sexy, clean shaven.
Did you recognize him in John Wick?
I
just did-
absolutely
for
recognize
those
him in
playing
John Wick.
at home, I just did the Drake meme. Of,
That's right.
No, yes.
Literally with her hand.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, awesome way of giving a nod to the comic by giving the minor characters the same gravitas that they had in the comic, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great introductions, and then in one case just steamrolled over them, in the other case an extended fight scene.
Yeah.
You know, that it's still fun to watch. It's just a fun, I'd put it up there with like Daredevil season 1's hallway fight.
Yeah.
You
The
know?
one
I think
shot
all
hallway
those
fight.
Netflix scenes, though, like the third episode had a hallway fight scene, and I think that was just critical of all the street level heroes at that point in time.
Right. Well, and that brings us to Daredevil and Punisher in what was the Netflix series. You know, I watched second season of Daredevil when it dropped. I think you watched it with us, Bear. Or at least a few episodes.
Probably. I mean, I had Netflix myself, so
Right.
I'm sure I watched it on my own too.
Enjoyed it, and I liked what they did with Frank. There was a disconnect because Punisher, the individual series, came out around the time that they were ramping up to the whole Defenders. And I started to watch Punisher then when it dropped and completely lost interest. And watching it now, because we actually binged it, which, again, we keep saying we don't do this that often. We really don't, but we
They
just
really
keep
don't.
finding things that we will.
I'm going to tell you why, from my perspective, why we binged that.
Okay, well,
and why I didn't like it.
I know why I didn't.
I mean, the character.
Right. I know why I didn't like it the time before. And that is because the Defender stuff and the Punisher stuff was so different.
Mm.
And I was expecting the Punisher stuff to fit in the same universe. And even though it had Karen and it
Slide
had some,
into that niche.
No, they
Yeah.
took
Yeah,
it with their
Karen.
own direction with that.
yeah, they absolutely went their own direction. And all the better for it once I was removed enough that it's been a few years. Like, it was, give me another episode, give me another episode.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that speaks to why I didn't like the Punisher as a character in the world of the Defenders. He doesn't fit, and you can't tell his story in that way. So when he was introduced, it was just like, God, yeah, I don't want to see a series about this guy. It's just going to be, dumb. It's not going to be like, I felt like all of the other Defenders series were, yeah, there was a lot of action. There was a lot of, not gore, but that was there, but it felt very intellectual. You know what I mean? It was it made you think, it made you feel, and it wasn't just about being as base as I felt like the Punisher felt
In
as a
season 2 of
character.
Daredevil.
Yes.
I think the closest that we got to what would end up being the Punisher series is the graveyard scene in Daredevil,
Yes.
where
I would agree with that.
where Matt is incapacitated and Frank takes the opportunity to just have a conversation,
Yeah.
and explain why they are similar.
Right.
take that scene and take the basis of it. That scene was a very Defenders-ish, not, I will say Defenders-ish. I do not refer to the actual Defenders series that eventually came, because I thought they kind of dropped the ball on several aspects of that.
Okay.
That one did not end up as elevated or as intellectual as I thought the rest of the shows were.
Agreed.
But there were hints that the Punisher had the capacity for that, and I think the first episode of the series hasn't introduced Micro yet.
Yeah.
And Micro is what brings that to Frank. Somebody else to ground himself with.
Right.
Another person to work off of. The first episode is just so much of Frank just being on his own. Right. Which he was in the Daredevil series.
Yeah.
Like, his best scenes are with Matt in the graveyard, or his stuff with Karen.
Yeah.
It's the times that Frank is interacting with other people that make him a more relatable character, and we don't see that a lot in his early introduction.
Right. And I completely agree. When he's interacting with Karen, it's like, at first you're like, why is she even bothering with him?
Why does she even bother with anyone in this universe?
But she has like a very specific, like, there is something there for her. I don't know what it is. It doesn't really matter. But she has a very deep feeling for Frank. She cares about him to a depth that I don't feel like she cares about anybody else.
Well, I think, and they cover that a little bit actually in season 2,
which we haven't watched yet. Oh, of Daredevil.
Season 2 of Daredevil, because it's one of those episodes in there she's having a conversation with Matt about, did we as a society do this? Did we create Frank?
Right.
And I think that kind of lends that, like, this is why she's kind of got that soft spot for Frank. It's because she's like...
If I remember correctly, too, I think they explore some of her backstory in the Punisher series.
Yes,
and I can't remember because it's been a while, because I watched it when it came out, and then I really wasn't impressed with it. And then I think, if I remember correctly, there were some parallels with something that she had to do. And then, so it there's a lot of the things that the Punisher said that, just kind of related to her. And she was just like, oh, well, maybe I don't want to be like this. And
so Karen Page in the comic books is a junkie. She's a heroin addict. And Karen Page in the show, up until the Punisher, it had been hinted that there was something in her past that she had been running from. And that's it. That's there's actually a scene where she has to shoot up, or something happens where it looks like she's going to have to shoot up. And
I did not get to rewatch the Punisher season.
And I believe that gets explored more in the second season of Punisher. I don't know. I haven't watched it, but
well, that's where they bring in Jigsaw in the second Punisher. I remember that because it's his buddy that becomes Jigsaw that was in his unit in Afghanistan.
Right.
Wait, we watched that?
Well, we saw the end of it. He comes back in the second.
But I think that the connection is, for her, a lot of it is, she's incredibly empathic. Karen is a very empathic person.
She used to be a vampire.
Oh, boy. So she, people who are empathic cannot help but feel when they are in proximity to someone with the depth of feeling that Frank Castle has, the depth of feeling that Daredevil has, whatever, so that's where I see she has that connection, because she truly understands. She feels what he feels, but she also understands how to deal with the situation in the TV series when she's in the room with the she's in there with the police. They're in a hotel because the senator is targeted or something.
Yes.
And then so they're the police are trying to pin it on Frank, and it's like the whole scene where she's shot, that whole thing really kind of led back into the empathy and understanding, and how much more she's like Frank than she is like Matt.
Yes, because at that point, she has killed somebody because she kills somebody in Daredevil.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So two of Daredevil.
One Daredevil.
Was it season 1?
Season 1.
Yeah.
His fist was still
Oh
out.
yeah. You're right.
Oh yeah, because it was one of his right hands, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It, was
Yes.
his, it was his right hand dude.
But she is the person that is between Matt and Frank and has secretly already taken the Frank route.
Yep.
And so understands Frank in a way that Matt cannot.
Right. Oh, Matt refuses.
Yes. Freaking Catholics.
I don't know. I'd like to think that it's, yes, his Catholic upbringing, but also, he's a lawyer. And, as a lawyer, you should uphold the law.
I think it's more the dichotomy, like as far as street level heroes and anti-heroes go. I think you have Daredevil on one end, Punisher on the other. Like Daredevil, like I believe that he was trying to do things as much as he can outside the law, so that way he can finish the rest of it inside the law. Where Punisher is just like it's the law of the bullet,
Yeah.
or the polar bear,
Or the polar bear.
The piranha pool, whatever.
Whatever
we've got here. I just love that scene though. Like he's just like cute, cuddly, fuzzy. This won't do. Punches the fucking polar bear and then runs because that's what you do.
So, how I'll close this is by asking each of you what your favorite incarnation thus far of.
I was going to say the same thing.
Well done. Well, you can go first then.
Man, I really like Bernthal's portrayal of Punisher, but after reading the comics and seeing how they're trying to add a lot more depth to the story, which I get it. Like you have to add a lot in order to get more out of the Punisher. So I really liked his portrayal about it, but I think the Thomas Jane one is closest to the comic if we're gonna go by that.
Okay. If you had to decide by just you, like
I'd go with Bernthal.
Okay. That speaks the most to you.
Yeah.
Bear?
God, it's so hard. It's so hard.
He's a Dolph guy. It's Lundgren. I know my brother.
If I could remember the Dolph Lundgren movie, other than the occasional like
Nude scene?
it's seared into my brain. Like
See, that's why you're a Dolph guy.
It is kind of hard to not picture when I'm watching Expendables and just feel like. Anyways, I really like Berenthal. Like I really wanted them to have Thomas Jane come back when they did. When they started putting him into Daredevil and then into his own series, and I was just like, please, oh please, bring back Thomas Jane. But at that point in time, I think at this point, like Thomas Jane
he's pretty
old. And I had just remembered seeing Berenthal in Walking Dead, and so when he popped up, I was just kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this, because he was kind of an asshole in Walking Dead, and then I was just like, well, it's Punisher, so he's just gonna be a different kind of asshole, really. Right. So I'm okay with it. I think I'd probably keep Berenthal. Like that'd probably be my favorite. I mean, Thomas Jane's got a special place in my heart because suddenly it was like, oh, it was really kind of one of those, like one of the first superhero movies that you saw that you were just like, oh shit, they finally did a superhero movie, right? So it kind of holds that special place in my heart, but I really love what they did with it.
For me, when it comes to superhero movies done right, I think people forget that the OG is.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Wesley Snipes did an amazing Blade.
Yeah, especially the first.
Yeah, the rest of them.
Well, I'm gonna admit that when I saw Blade, I had no idea that was me.
I didn't either. We're all just like, nope. Josh is like, of course it's me.
Yeah.
But that's why the rest of us are here.
Well, Josh decided to read Welcome Back, Frank before he actually saw the 2004 Punisher movie, so he is the big nerd out of all of us here.
I've been the comic book nerd. That's
we
kind of
that.
my place in the show.
Where have you been?
So, Jen, favorite Punisher?
I think I have to go with Berenthal. I mean, I really like Thomas Jane. I loved Dirty Laundry. I loved that. I thought it was a great moving on from the original movie. But Berenthal just, I think he ticks all of the boxes for that character for me.
I also wonder, though, if we're all voting for Berenthal just based off the fact that
he's the newest.
The sheer volume, because we've got 2 hours of little over 2 hours of Thomas Jane. We've got like 39 hours of
See, and that
Berenthal.
was brought into my judgment, and it's by a sliver, but I actually go with Thomas.
It is still really close for all the
He's
rest.
the
I will-
truest, yeah.
Yes. And I will say, if Dirty Laundry had not been released, I probably would have gone with Berenthal. Dirty Laundry is what puts me over the edge. It almost retroactively changes that Punisher movie for me. To know that Frank had worse in him.
Oh yeah.
And that if Frank doesn't do what Frank does and he tries to hold it in, it's going to come out and it's going to come out worse. And that, like, actually elevates the 2004 Punisher movie to me, because you have this Frank that's like putting people up, putting popsicles on their back, saying, oh yeah, I'm burning your nerve endings. Like, you know, and then
When I let all
systematically doesn't even destroy this dude, lets this dude destroy his own best friend and his marriage and all of this other stuff before he takes the revenge. I don't think Dirty Laundry Punisher has that long game, because he's been trying to fight his own instincts. And so it's showing what Frank is capable of if Frank doesn't get that outlet. And I really like that. Berenthal's great. I'm definitely gonna watch the second season. I just didn't have enough time before everything else for this season, and since this is an early recording this season, I do want to watch second season of Punisher. I do hope that they bring Berenthal back. You know, if the Disney Plus series start to pick up, or he at least makes an appearance in Daredevil.
I did read an article somewhere that now that Disney has those rights back and has those shows on their streaming service, that they have been in talks about doing, like,
Daredevil's already a for sure.
yeah,
Everything else is on the table.
except for Jessica Jones. Probably not going to do another Jessica Jones, from the article that I was reading.
Not by herself, not
Yes.
her own series.
Not
She may
yet.
show up.
Most
Yeah.
likely, especially
Yes,
if they do more.
Disney
defenders.
looked at what they did for the first 3 seasons of Jessica and went, maybe not
Yeah, maybe we don't
on
need
the
to get any
Disney
deeper.
brand. Yeah. Because Jessica Jones is just, yeah, it's so heavy. Well, and Kristen Ritter herself has said Jessica's story, as far as those first 3 seasons, she would serve as a team member or as something to accent from then on, which I can understand that. Season 3 of Jessica Jones, I mean, it was okay. I enjoyed it, but it was
I
kind
don't
of,
remember what was the storyline for the plot for 3?
it was mostly
Her friend getting the
Her friend.
superpowers.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
becoming
Oh yeah.
Patsy.
Yep.
Patsy becoming
Super powered
not Wildcat, Hellcat.
Hellcat.
I remember now.
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like I think Berenthal in what we watched actually did give you a little bit of an indication of what he was capable of. You know, because it showed. I think the first season showed that he was, you know, initially what he was doing was kind of revenge. His family was killed, and trying to find out who was responsible, and basically just revenge until that. And once that's done, I'm done. And then he gets involved with Micro, and there's, like, he realizes that there are other families, not just his.
Well, and
that need to be-
still does tie back to his family, though, in the first season. That's why I'm interested in the second season.
Yeah.
Is other than Jigsaw coming back, he has revenged all of his family stuff, unless he goes higher in the government. He is, you know, he killed the general in charge of it, like all of that. So where do you go with Frank, and how are we going to turn Frank? Because the comics do the same thing. Frank takes a turn where it isn't about his family anymore; it's about everyone else's family.
If I remember the second season of Punisher, I think that's essentially what happens. Like he's trying to live his life, and then all of a sudden it's like, shit, I got wrapped up in this story, and oh look how big it is now. All right, something's gonna get blown up, and some people are gonna die.
All right, so I will. Let's do the last question. Luke, are you interested enough from this comic to check out some other Punisher stuff?
Honestly, Honestly, probably not, to be honest. Like from our analysis that we talked about, like, don't get me wrong, Punisher's kind of fun and all, but it's something like, ooh, like I happen to be sitting at a buddy's house and he's got a stack of Punisher comics on the nights or on the end table. I just might start reading them and stuff like that. But or I might, if I really need some inspiration for like action movie or like revenge story, stuff like that, I might check out I highly recommend going through your local library. They might have cool things like going through Hoopla or Libby or stuff like that. That's how I've been able to get all my comics for my appearances here on Graphically Novel. So you might check out, see what they got in your local library for comics and whatnot. But like, I don't know if this is something I'd actively seek out. Like before, like I'd say I'd go out and seek out more like Hulk comics, I think, than Punisher comics, because there's some differences, but it doesn't really like grasp me that much. Plus also like the anti-hero thing isn't really my thing anymore, you know.
Understood. Jen?
As much as I enjoyed the ones that I read, I really don't think I would seek out more. I did really like what we read. I thought it was good. I would recommend it. But I don't need
Fair.
I agree with everybody else. I think I like this because it was Ennis, but as far as reading more, I agree with Luke. Unless I'm like looking for like, you know, my next like tabletop role playing character, like inspiration or something like that. I don't think I'm gonna really dig. Although I might try and find that 4 issues where he comes back as like Godspawn.
Yeah, well, actually, I was just about to say I probably will end up reading it, and others, because I think I'm gonna find some of the wackiest Punisher stuff and put it on the list for Rec Conversations.
I mean, I'm also interested in like, you know, the run where, you know, the cops are like, oh, we're trying to model ourselves after you, and he's like, no, that's stupid.
Yeah,
you shouldn't be doing that.
Do not. Yeah.
But just knowing that it's out there, it kind of keeps like a nice little warm place in my heart. So, but yeah, no, I like I said, I think I like it because it's Ennis. It inspires me to read more Ennis.
Nothing wrong with that.
Like, I kind of want to go find the Ennis Superman. Definitely want to go find the Ennis Hulk. There's Thor. There's Spider-Man. He did some Spider-Man too. Kind of want to go back and reread Preacher now. Well,
that will do it. Luke, thank you so much for showing up. When Bear makes the jackets for our multiple time guests, which he's brought up, the SNL jackets, you will definitely be getting one.
And I'll make sure to have some issues of Punisher sitting on the nightstand when you come up to visit next.
I don't remember bringing up jackets, especially because I don't watch SNL unless I'm here. You sure that wasn't you?
No, I'm sure it wasn't me.
Okay. Well,
He's passing the buck.
Yeah, must be.
Well, you'd have to listen to old episodes to figure that out.
I mean,
people listen to this?
People
probably not.
I wouldn't listen to me. I've proven this.
You prove this by not listening to you.
Anna says I sound good.
There you go. But please, everyone, tune in next time when we will be talking about Hawkeye, and we will have Meredith Gerber and Mike Hollywood with us.
Awesome.
Yeah, that'll be on location as well. That'll be a weekend where we go to Chicago, drink a bunch of
wonderful local craft brews,
and sit down and record 3 shows in a weekend.
Whew,
so
we haven't done that in a long time.
Yep. So
my liver needs to be prepped. I have to dry out before then.
It's already pickled, man.
But until then, take it away, Vandello.
Come with me, I'll tell a story that you might have heard before. Graphically novel, but the same old trouble. Villains always knocking at the door. Pretty pictures on the page, but nothing ever stays the same. Do 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 do. Come at me, and I'll show you something you ain't never seen before. Right or wrong, or we all just get along. My mask is no different than yours. Pretty pictures on the screen, but nothing's ever as it seems.